Hello, and welcome to the March issue of Library Worklife. I'm Caitlin Williams, and I'm delighted to be with you here today. For those of you who don't know me, I work with ALA by doing career coaching at Midwinter and in June at the conference. And I also write articles for ALA on career-related issues and do interviews with some librarians out in the field doing some fantastic things. So what I'd like to do in this issue of Library Worklife is to share with you some of the things that came up when I did career coaching at Midwinter a couple weeks ago in Denver. I saw some themes that came up in the questions that people asked, and I thought I'd share those with you along with some ideas, hoping that that will help you grow your own career. So perhaps you have some of the same questions, or you may have other ones, but through this presentation, my aim is to give you some ideas to take your career and grow it from wherever you are right now, regardless of the situation you're in. So let's look at what we have so far. And here's the 4 questions that I heard from a number of people who came in to the career coaching session. So you see them on this page here. I heard from those people who are getting ready to graduate from their degree program or certificate program, and they had questions about how and when to apply for jobs. I also heard from more experienced professionals about, they had questions related to how do I transition to a different type of setting than the one I'm in right now. I heard about, from many people, questions related to, I'd like to move, perhaps across the country. How do I do a long-distance job search? And finally, I heard questions that come up quite often, and those are related to interviews. How do I do it best? How do I get ready for an interview? So let's look at those. That first question, I'm graduating from my degree program or certificate program in the spring or perhaps in the summer. What should I start, doing now? When should I start looking for a job? What should I do now to get ready? And I always say to them, well, get ready starting yesterday. You don't need to start applying for a job next week if you're not graduating until May or June, but you can do so many different things to get ready for that, and that's what I'd like to help you do. The first thing you can do is review all your communication documents. And you see there on the left, I have what looks like a resume there. And I'd like to mention a couple things about your resume. First, here's an idea for you to think about. Create a master resume for yourself on your computer. And that's for your eyes only. It's not what you're going to be sending out to people. But it's a master resume because it includes all the jobs you've held, all the skills, perhaps all your accomplishments, the associations that you belong to, presentations, papers, anything like that. You keep that separate, and then you copy and paste from that into a new document, into a new resume, things you want to put into one for a specific organization, a specific library, a specific setting that's looking for perhaps certain skills, a certain kind of background. You can you could copy and paste from your master resume the things that you think are most important to communicate in that particular instance. That'll save you from trying to recreate the wheel every time you're putting together a resume, because you do want to tailor it to the place where you're applying. Your LinkedIn profile. How is that? I'm sure you have one, right? Well, in the profile section, you know that you only have a certain number of characters that you can use. So use them well. Make sure you communicate your uniqueness and the skills that you want to mention in different ways to let people know that those are the things you really want to use and you're qualified and ready to use in this next position that you want to move into. Also, check and see, do you have yourself listed as a student? Well, then say when you're graduating, expected date of graduation May, or graduating in, however you want to say it. Let whoever's looking at that LinkedIn profile know that you will be graduating. Third, you see there a woman holding a card, and that's meant to signify a business card. Now, I know some people will say, nobody uses business cards anymore, with all our electronic devices. Well, I'm suggesting that you do have ones made, because you might be in the middle of a conversation with someone and they say, do you have a card? There may be some opportunities that I've heard about that might be useful, and I'd like to stay in contact with you. It'd be nice then, wouldn't it, to hand them that card? Just make sure you've got an email address on there that's not linked to your school because you're going to be graduating from that school. So you're separate from that, or will be soon. And perhaps include your LinkedIn profile, your URL for that, so they can go right to your LinkedIn profile. Just make sure that it looks good and that you feel good handing it to someone. Okay? The thank you that you see there relates to every time you say thank you in some way to someone you've done an information interview with, or an interview by phone, or in person, or in a group setting, a group interview. You want to immediately afterward go to your computer and create a tailor-made thank you to that person. Not a form letter, but something you can say thank you and perhaps mention something they were interested in the interview, or something they said that caught your attention, so it's personalized. Down in that second row there, you see sort of a little cloud. Looks like there should be some text in it. That's meant to signify what you should think about in terms of what you're going to say when someone says to you. So what kind of opportunity are you looking for? What kind of position are you looking for? Where are you looking? You want to think ahead of time about what you'd like to say, not so it's memorized, but so in fact you have something that you're comfortable saying, and it comes out pretty much in a similar fashion to everyone you talk about, so you're sending out the same message. Perhaps it shifts because in some instances you're looking in a public library, in some instances you're looking in a special library. That's fine, but communicate professionally and succinctly what you're looking for. Practice it ahead of time so you're comfortable with it. That last piece on that page looks like some letters in that little blue square, and that's what it's meant to be. So you can think of them as cover letters. We call them e-notes sometimes. They're what accompanies your resume. They're a brief note or short letter that communicates your interest in the position or what you have that's unique about you, why you'd be a good fit. Whatever it is, again, the message should be professional, succinct, and really focused on what you're looking for. Also, update your network. Of course, we all have networks, but especially as you're graduating, think about updating yours. That picture in the left-hand corner there, that could be an overhead view of an auditorium, a conference center, perhaps, where you took classes. Maybe it's not quite that big, but perhaps it is. Think about letting your fellow students know you want to stay connected with them. Now is a good time. Even if you're in an online program, you can stay connected through Skype, through email, through all kinds of ways. But let them know now before you graduate and get their information and exchange it. You can be a great support system for one another later on if either of you hear of opportunities that you want to pass on to one another. In the right-hand corner, you see what looks like a work meeting, a team meeting. So you may be one of the people who attended a program while you were working part-time or full-time. Let your coworkers know that you're graduating, if that seems appropriate. Perhaps they know of other opportunities even within your organization that now that you're graduated, perhaps that opportunity would be just right for you. So let them know. In the middle, you see a man and woman chatting together. That's meant to indicate stay connected with your faculty members, the ones that you respected, you got along with well, shared interests. These are the ones that you want to make certain you stay in contact with. Now's a good time to ask them for reference letters too, as well as where you did your internships. Don't forget them. You can do it later on, but while you're still a student, it's a good time to ask for one. And then if you look in the corner, you see what look like a bunch of feet, right? What I mean by that is think of the activities you're involved with. Maybe it's a running club or a rock climbing club, or maybe it's associations or community things you're involved with. Let the members know that you're about to graduate, because you don't know that down the road there may be opportunities that they hear about that might be right for you. So update that network. This next one, do not apply for every job you see posted. Apply strategically. By that, what I mean is, it's going to be tempting. You're going to think, well, there's all these jobs, and I've heard people say, I've applied for 50 jobs in the last 2 weeks. No, don't do that. Be more strategic. Think of the skills and the talent you have and where it would best fit, and the kind of organizations or systems that you would like to work in. And do so thoughtfully. Then when you apply, you'll do so much more strategically, and you'll have a better target to go after. Lastly, get interview ready. We'll talk more about interviews in a few minutes, but when I say get interview ready, think of it this way. What happens if next week you meet with someone to network, and the week after that they get back to you and they say, you know what, I talked to someone at such and such an organization and they think you would be great there. Here's their name, give them a call. Well, you can do that, and that's wonderful. You don't want to panic, though, if they say come in for an interview. So along with this link and what you're watching right now, there's going to be a link that will take you to some resources I've put together, both print and online, that will give you help with interviewing. Do it. Look at the things that are online. Look at the books if you have an opportunity to do so. Get yourself comfortable so that it's not going to panic you if someone does want to talk to you in the next month or so. Question number 2 that came up. I want to transition to a different type of work setting. How do I do that? And you'll see my answer is that research, network, adjust, and repeat. We can't make that something we do in a just offhand manner, making such a transition perhaps from a public library to an academic setting. They're going to want different things from you, maybe a CV versus a regular resume. They're also going to have their own language they talk, perhaps use of some jargon or some phraseology that isn't something that you're used to. And remember, this question is focused on anyone, not just people who are coming out of school, but oftentimes more people who have been in a work setting for a while, are experienced, and are looking to do some different kind of work. So when I say research, network, and adjust and repeat, you're going to do a lot of research to find out what do they expect. How can you do that? As an exercise, look at a bunch of different job announcements, openings, doesn't matter where they are for this exercise, but just see what themes come up over and over that they're looking for. For instance, often in academic libraries, they want you to have instruction experience. Well, that's good to know, isn't it? Network with people in different settings who work in libraries or who know someone that they can tell you about that works in perhaps a special library, a museum, perhaps works for a publisher, and then do an information interview with that person so that you can find out more of what they're looking for, so you can tweak your resume. You can do a number of things that in fact make you more of an ideal candidate. And it's very important that you understand what it takes to transition. In that list I told you about a moment ago, that reference and that resource list that you'll see, there's a great book by William Bridges, and it's called Transitions. Though it's an old book, what's true is that it's absolutely fantastic in terms of what we all go through as we make transitions, perhaps to a new job, perhaps to a new marriage, to a new city. It takes time generally. And I know sometimes people say, well, I'm going to transition to an academic library and I want to do so in the next month. Well, be cautious about setting up, some timelines for yourself that it may take longer. And you don't want to be disappointed because you don't get an interview, even though you've been trying, because you're trying to do it too quickly, or you don't know what they're looking for, so you don't highlight those things in your resume. You want to take whatever time it takes, but you also want to figure out, okay, it's going to take a while. How will I take care of myself? Will I stay where I am now until I make that transition? Will I look for a part-time position so I can, in fact, spend more time on the job search and in finding out what different libraries are looking for? Think about what goes into a transition, any transition, and that'll help you, I think, be more gentle with yourself as you make that transition, because things will be different in a new setting. So come to talk about settings. Which setting is best for you? You're in public and perhaps you want to go to academic. And as I said, maybe they'll want instruction skills. Okay, well, you're going to decide whether or not you have those or how you get them. Maybe you want to go to a museum. Maybe you want to go to a public library and you're not in one now. Think about the ones where your skill set that you have now will already be valued and you can make a transition over that way. Think about the ones that you're really passionate about and you'd like to do some different kinds of work with that'll get you different skills and different audience. Perhaps you want to work for a nonprofit or in a healthcare setting, in a library within a healthcare setting. So think seriously. So you don't want to apply again to everything. Which ones work best for you and will work best for the organization that sees you as a good candidate? And nope, one resume is not going to work, not in every setting. You're going to tailor it. You're going to copy and paste from your master resume. You're going to change your phraseology if they say things that they're looking for and you know you've done it, but maybe it's different wording. You want to tailor it. And then you want to identify your strengths and any gaps. When you look at that job description exercise I told you about, so you look at a number of job ads that are out there. Let's say they're in special libraries, and you see that they use, in a particular kind of special library, they use certain words over and over again, certain skills they're looking for. Same thing with public libraries. Maybe they want outreach. Maybe they want you to create more programs in-house. Whatever it is, if you see it over and over again, ask yourself, are there some gaps? How can I fill those gaps? Can I take an online course through the association I belong to? If it's instruction, can that be done through an association or a pre-conference day where I just focus on that? Or through an organization like ATD, Association for Talent Development, that has all kinds of instructional programs? Think to yourself, how can I fill those gaps? It may take longer than you think, but maybe you can use what you're doing right now, even what you do every day at work, and build some skills, build some new skills that will help you in the next setting. Also, think transferable skills and value. So as I said before, you may have some skills, but you know you can use in another setting. Perhaps you're great with teens. Perhaps you've done a lot of volunteer work with teens. And you know that that's what a public library is looking for. They want you to do outreach programs with teens. Great. If you've got some skill that you have from volunteering, how can you say it in your resume so they know that you have that? Also, value-wise, you're just really good. Let's use the teen again, the teen example. You're really good at working with teenagers. You understand them. Yeah. You value what they have to offer. It's easy conversation you have with them. How can you talk about the unique value if you're going to a place where one of the things they want you to do is do a lot of work with teens? You get the idea. Question 3 that I get often is, I want to move to a different part of the country, or perhaps even outside the country, to work in a library-related setting. How do I do that? And you'll see my short answer, which isn't so very short. I say, don't aim for Atlanta today, Anchorage tomorrow, and Antwerp the day after that. What do I mean by that? Again, you don't want to go everywhere. You want to really think about different areas you want to move to, and think about why you want to move to them. So let's talk right now just within this country. Where exactly do you want to move? Is it the Middle Atlantic states? Is it perhaps the academic libraries within the state of California? All I'm suggesting, and it shouldn't be just one city or one town like Cody, Wyoming, or Decatur, Georgia. You want to think bigger than that. Maybe you want to have a city in mind and think about, okay, where could I commute to from that location? What is a half-hour drive, a 40-minute drive, a 20-minute drive, whatever you're looking for. And then make a list of who falls within that area, what systems or what colleges or what special libraries might be there, or what nonprofits. If you do that, you'll be able to more readily research that area, research the community, research the academic libraries within that community or within that geography. And so you'll be more specific, and you'll not be trying to move or go everywhere, because how can you research Atlanta today and Anchorage tomorrow? They're very different kinds of communities. You don't want it to appear that you're willing to take anything anywhere. You are a professional with skills. So think about why you want to move. Maybe it's because friends or family are there. Maybe you want a new geography. Maybe you're tired of being cold and you'd like somewhere warmer. You want to think about those things, and that will help you focus your job search. The other thing you want to do is look for fit. Let's say you want to move to Seattle. You love Seattle and you want to move there. Perhaps you apply to some jobs there and you're invited in for an interview. and you find that it's not the fit you were looking for. Maybe it's not structured enough. Maybe it's too structured. Maybe you won't be able to use your unique talents as much as you would like to. You do have unique talents. You want to use them. Maybe you can't do that there. On the flip side of that, on the other side of that, perhaps what's true is you want to, in fact, use skills that are new or are you just recently got in touch with that you love doing, and this opportunity would be good for you, would be right for you. Good. That means there's a fit there. But again, you're not just taking anything. In addition to looking for fit, you also want to look at your preferred settings. Remember, you're making a long-distance move, so you want to think about lifestyle as well. Is this a setting that, you like small towns, this is a small town, or you want to move to a bigger city? Well, maybe it's not going to be in a small town setting like Cody, Wyoming, though it's wonderful there, I've been there, but maybe you want something bigger this time, a larger metropolitan area. Think about all the things that would be important to you. You're not going to find the perfect job, not likely. Some things might be off, but what are the things that really draw you there, and what's important to you? Will that be part of the setting that you move into? And lastly, think and act like a local. And what I mean by that is, if it's possible to go to this area, let's say Seattle, beforehand and scout around and see what the systems are like there, or the healthcare settings are like there, to get a better feel for, is this where I want to live? Will this give me a chance to use my talents? Is this the kind of lifestyle that will work for me? All those things are important. You can look at the newspapers there in town, and most cities have their newspapers online, so read the community section, read the business section. These will give you an idea of what's going on there, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, will this fit for me? Remember, you're a skilled professional, you are not a desperation hire. So what places can give you a chance to show off the skills you have and continue to grow, as well as continue to contribute to this organization that you're moving to? The last question. I get a bit nervous about interviewing. Do you have any advice? And you see my answer there, prepare and prepare and prepare. Don't go in winging it, even if you think you can. There's a lot of resources to help you prepare for interviewing. Let's talk about a couple things that you can do. One is you can think variations when it comes to interviews. They come in all imaginable ways. There's the one-on-one interview. There is the one you see here, the group interview, where several people are interviewing you. Certainly that happens in academic settings, but often in other settings too. Then there's the Skype interview, and finally, there's the phone interview. To the best of your ability, if you know who you are going to be interviewing with, and you can find that out by asking, that's a perfectly valid question. If it's a group, who's going to be there? If it's one-on-one, who will I be interviewing with? And maybe there'll be different one-on-ones throughout the day. If it's a Skype, same thing. Even on the phone, if you are preparing for this phone interview, this first interview, you can ask ahead of time, most often, who will I be talking with? Then you can find out as much as you can about these people through the web pages. What are they like? What are their passions in their current jobs, in their current roles? Or are they alumni of the same place that you went to school? So gather the information you can. And then we do the basics that we sometimes forget about. We smile. We have energy in our voice. We shake hands. We make eye contact. All of those things are important. Though the basics, sometimes we get nervous and we forget about them. And so here's a simple trick. It's going to sound silly, but when you're doing an interview that's done only by phone, stand up. You'll actually have more energy. Smile. That will give you more energy. And if you know who you're talking with and you've already looked on that person's webpage and there's a picture of that person, print it, copy it, and put it up somewhere on the wall so where you can see it while you're talking to that person. It makes it a bit more personal and less anonymous that way. You'll feel more of a connection. A couple more things and then we'll wrap up here. So be prepared to tell some stories. And what do I mean by that? I'm thinking now of behavioral interviewing. When they say, tell me about how you handled a challenge in your last position, a particular kind of challenge, you want to think this through ahead of time and have examples of, yes, last time this happened, here's how I went about it. So you can say what you did, what the outcome was, what you think you learned from it, what went well. All of these things give the interviewer a better sense of who you are. So be prepared to have stories, by that I mean examples, of all the different things that you have on your resume. And yes, it will take time, but you'll be glad you did it, because it'll feel like you can be more confident and competent when it comes to the interview. And expect the unexpected. You don't want to look like this gentleman looks when they ask you a question that seems totally off base, or when they say, you know, you're supposed to come in for a couple hours and interview today, but would you mind staying the whole day? Because there's some other people I'd like you to meet. You don't want to be thrown by this. If you can't stay, you can't stay, but if you can, we want to be able to say, yeah, I would be glad to do that. So I'm just suggesting that different situations may come up, or an interview question may come up. It's totally, you can't think of how that might relate to the position you're seeking. Well, perhaps take a few moments, say, that's a great question, let me think about that for a moment, and then respond. Remember, it's a conversation, not an interrogation. They would be very happy if you were the one. If the interviewer would be delighted if you were the one that could fill this role. They're for you, they're not against you, so make it a conversation. By all means, ask questions. And I mean questions of substance at the end of an interview. Don't say, when they say to you, do you have any more questions, or do you have any questions now that we've finished? Don't say, no, we've covered it all. Think about substantial questions. What would be involved in this role when you try to do programming? What are you looking for in the ideal candidate? Whatever questions are important to you, make sure that you ask them. So in closing, regardless of the situation you're in, I want you to remember that you can do this. Just be thoughtful and strategic, because you have a lot of skills to offer, and I want you to remember that. And the people who know you best do know what skills you have to offer, but do remember that when you're going to a new setting, an interview that is in a different kind of organization or even across town, they may not know what you have to offer. So make sure that you communicate that every time to everyone that you're speaking with. I wish you every possible success in your career, and thank you for joining us today.